The fastest way to lose credibility after a strong presentation is by stumbling through the Q&A. Hands go up, someone leans into the mic, or the chat box starts filling up with questions, and suddenly you're on the spot. This is the part that makes a lot of leaders nervous because you can practice your presentation 20 times, but you cannot rehearse every single question you might get asked. That unknown can create anxiety and tension. But here's the truth. Q&A isn't something to dread. It's actually your greatest chance to shine. In this week's session, I'll show you how to handle Q&A with confidence using my simple 3 Ps framework: pause, probe, and provide. I'll share real examples and exactly what you can say in the moment. Plus, we'll have some pause and practice moments so you can apply this to your own presentations. And I'll close with a bonus segment on what to do if Q&A doesn't go smoothly, like when someone gets defensive, emotional, or challenges your expertise. So grab your notebook because you're going to want to write these down. Before we jump in, let's talk about why Q&A matters. Because let's be honest, anyone can read a script. A polished presentation shows preparation, but it doesn't necessarily show credibility. The question and answer segment is where your audience decides if you really know your stuff. Think about it. When you watch a speaker, their slides might be beautiful, their delivery could be strong, but what happens when someone asks a tough question? If they stumble, ramble, or dodge, the audience remembers that more than the main talk. On the other hand, if they handle it with poise, confidence, and clarity, it elevates everything that came before. That's why learning to manage Q&A like a pro is one of the most powerful leadership communication skills you can develop. Let's jump into the 3 Ps framework. The first thing you want to do is pause. When a question comes your way, your natural instinct may be to answer immediately. You don't want silence to feel awkward, so you just jump in. But the problem with answering too quickly is that you risk blurting something out before your brain is fully caught up. Instead, pause. Take a breath. Repeat or reframe the question if needed. That short pause signals confidence. It shows the audience that you're not rattled, you're thoughtful. Here are some examples of how to pause gracefully. That's a great question. Let me think about the best way to answer. Before I respond, I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You're asking about smile and nod. Thanks for asking that. Here's how I'd approach it. Your first pause and practice moment is to pause the video and then out loud pick one phrase you can use to give yourself some space before answering the question. Our second step is to probe. Sometimes questions aren't clear. They might be too broad or even laced with emotion. Instead of rushing to answer, probe. Ask a clarifying question to narrow it down and to show that you're listening. Probing does 2 things. It gives you more time to think, especially if the question is one that catches you off guard. And it makes the asker feel respected because you're taking their question seriously. Some examples of probe statements might be, when you say impact, are you thinking about financial results or team workload? Can you give me a specific scenario that you have in mind? That's a broad question. Would it help if I focus on the short-term view or the long-term view? Your next pause and practice moment is to pause here and write down 2 clarifying questions you can ask the next time you get a question that feels too broad. Our third step is to provide. This is the part where you're actually going to deliver your answer. The key here is structure. Don't ramble and don't take the audience on a long walk to nowhere. Provide an answer that's clear, concise, and confident. Go for one main idea supported by a strong example or data point, and then stop talking. The power of your answer comes not just from what you say, but from your ability to land the point and let it breathe. Some examples of provide responses. There are two key factors to consider: cost and timing. Here's how they connect. From my experience, the best approach is to start small, test, and then scale. We don't have the final data yet, but based on what we know today, here's the direction we're leaning. Our third pause and practice moment is to pause now and practice giving a short, structured answer to one of the questions that you wrote down earlier. Your bonus segment is about what to do when Q&A goes wrong. Let's be real. Not every Q&A is smooth sailing. Sometimes things can get tricky. Let's talk about how to handle 4 common challenges. The first one, the defensive questioner. This person doesn't really want an answer. They want to prove you wrong. So for example, they might ask, haven't you just wasted all of our budget with this approach? But here's how you respond. Stay calm, acknowledge their concerns. I hear your point about the budget. Redirect them to the facts. Here's what the numbers show so far. And then offer some follow-up offline if needed. The second type might be the denier. They just reject your entire premise. For example, they might say that risk you mentioned isn't real. Here's how to respond. Validate their perspective. I see where you're coming from. Share your reasoning. Here's why we factored that risk in. And keep it short and then move on. You don't want to go back and forth, and you don't want to debate them endlessly. The third type might be the emotional questioner. This is where tears, frustration, or even anger may bubble up. They might say, this change is going to crush my team. You don't understand how hard this is. Here's how you respond. Show empathy. I hear that this feels overwhelming. Pause before giving a logical response, and then offer next steps. Let's connect after this session so we can talk through how to support your team. And then you may get the off-top questioner. This is when someone tries to hijack the Q&A for their own benefit. For example, when are we going to upgrade the coffee machines? Now, no one in the whole entire presentation was talking about coffee machines, but here's how you respond. Acknowledge it without letting it derail you. That's a good question, but it's outside of the focus of today's topic. And then pivot back. For now, let's stay focused on the project rollout. I'll connect you with the workplace team after. The key in all these scenarios is to stay composed, acknowledge the person, and then guide the room back to your main message. You're not just answering questions, you're managing the energy of the audience, and it's critical that you don't lose control of the room. All right, let's recap the 3 Ps of handling Q&A like a pro. You're going to pause, take a breath before answering. You're going to probe, clarify the question to make sure you understand, and you're going to provide. Deliver a clear, confident response. Remember, your talk shows preparation. However, your Q&A shows confidence and a strong understanding of your subject matter. When you master both, it boosts your credibility as a presenter. If you found this helpful, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss my next everyday public speaking video, where I will share how to give feedback without it being uncomfortable. Now that you've got the tools, it's time to put them to work. If you'd like one-on-one coaching on this topic, or if you represent an organization whose leaders could benefit from a workshop on this topic, visit CoachSummerAlexander.com to schedule a call. Until next week, lead well and speak with confidence.